I make mistakes pretty much several times throughout the day. Today we made a pretty big mistake working together, but that's okay. So it's good fuel for this BBC. And last week I made a mistake where I lost a couple hours of work, and I was like, oh man, but I was able to, it was actually a big turning point because I was able to catch it and just accept it. And it was, for me, kind of a what I call aha, duh moments, where it's just like, oh, this is what it means to be human. Of course we make mistakes. And it was just so glaring to be like, wow, to have the idea that I don't make mistakes is really stupid and completely illogical and doesn't make any sense. And so this sense of just accepting that I'm human and that we make mistakes really had a much deeper sense of kind of empathy, understanding, and compassion of really just what it means to be human. And it was such a nice contrast because quite often I go into beating up on myself, making it a big deal, judging myself or blaming others when mistakes are made. And that doesn't help anything. And so to again and again, I think for several days after that, I was really just kind of sitting in this space of like, of course, we're human, and just kind of feeling a deeper sense of compassion and understanding, like, yes, we're human. We're totally make mistakes all the time. That's completely normal. And to me, again, this shows how again and again and again, how many unreasonable expectations I have, and how it's those expectations that cause so much trouble. But sadly, it's only when I don't get those expectations met is that I realize that I had those expectations. I don't even realize I have these expectations until something happens, and then I get upset and angry. And oftentimes I blame the external thing or myself rather than being like, oh, I had this expectation that was completely unreasonable. That's the thing to dismantle, not blaming the person or myself. But rarely do I recognize that it's those expectations, which are really kind of a form of my rules of the universe that I just created and fabricated. But those expectations really are what underlies so much of my anger and attachment and my expectations of how things should be, which are, again, they're completely made up. They're my own internal version of my own fake news, my own kind of completely fabricated story of how things should be that don't really have any solid basis to them. It's kind of like I built this whole scaffolding and structure of expectations that shape my view of the world, but they don't really provide any real support because those expectations are not rooted in reality. And in a way, they really only just limit and constrict my view of the world, which just sets me up for more disappointment and frustration. Because the reality is that things are very unpredictable and unstable, that they're not set in stone and predictable. And I think one of these expectations that I'm unaware of when I make mistakes is, as I hear myself saying, oh, I should have known better. I should have thought this through. I should have thought of all the different factors. And again, that's an unreasonable expectation that I'm holding that standard to myself, that I shouldn't make mistakes and that I should have factored in all of these unknown things, which is completely absurd. But I do recognize that I often make mistakes when I'm moving too fast, when I think things should go quickly and I should be able to get things done faster, which again is another expectation that things should go smoothly, they should go easily, and they should go in the way that I planned. And when I'm running up against those expectations, I try to go faster, and that's when I end up making mistakes. So instead of just recognizing like, okay, things are gonna take however long they're gonna take, and there's probably gonna be other factors that arise that I'm not aware of, then I can be more flexible in adapting to when things arise. But instead, I'm slowly learning to just expect that obstacles will arise, to kind of, just be like, okay, this is this paving project that we're planning, I thought it was going to take 2 days. Of course it's not going to take 2 days. It's going to take who knows how long. It's going to take as long as it's going to take. And to keep training my mind to expect that things will arise, to not have that expectation that things will go smoothly, but to really just be like, okay, this project's maybe going to happen. Let's see what arises. Let's see if it actually gets to completion. Who knows what will arise in that time? And to expect that I'm probably going to make mistakes during that process. But the key thing is to recognize that in that process of making mistakes, that's the opportunity I have to learn and to grow. And if things go smoothly, I'm not going to learn and grow from them. But if I make mistakes, that always helps me to stretch my mind to seeing things in a bigger perspective and to learning how I'm viewing things, learning to challenge my expectations and to be able to grow from it, to really kind of learn to lean into making mistakes as really just opportunities for growing. And I think this is such a huge practice because when I can have this acceptance for myself and for others when they make mistake, this is helping me to really grow my love and compassion, which is so much more important than not making mistakes. And also in looking at this, I've come to have a much deeper understanding of really what it means to have a mind under the control of karma and the afflictions and confusion. I really love that image of being swept away in a river in the darkness, dark of night, carried away by our karma and our afflictions. Because that's really the reality of how things are, that I'm so not in control of things. And I've got this huge backlog of past actions that are pushing me forward that I'm not aware of at all. And so to be at the fact that we can actually accomplish anything and do anything that functions is actually quite amazing, considering how much karma and afflictions and unknown factors there are that are playing into every moment. But again, recognizing this continues to open my heart and have that compassion and acceptance for all of us, that we're all in this situation. It doesn't mean that I sink into despair and give up thinking that I can't change because I'm so influenced by karma and the afflictions. But at least I'm not fighting against it and denying that that's a huge, important factor, influencing factor. I guess another factor of accepting these mistakes and recognizing that things don't go my way is to remind myself of a phrase that I say frequently, that resistance is futile. And this actually comes from Star Trek, from the second generation. I grew up watching Star Trek as a kid. And this came from the Borg, which was an evil enemy that was actually kind of more like a computer. They were more mechanical computer beings that were taking over human beings and changing their brains to become more computer-like. And their phrase was, resistance is futile. But I don't know, I use this phrase because all the time I see myself resisting things, rejecting them, and that is futile. That doesn't help the situation at all. It's just gonna stir up my afflictions and really just make the situation worse. And it applies to any situation. I mean, sickness, injury, plans changing, people not acting the way I want. If I'm resisting it, it's not going to help anything. The situation is what it is. And the more more I resist it, the more painful it is. Also, the more personal I make the situation, I make it more painful. When I make it personal, I make it more painful as well. And these are just examples of that second arrow that the Buddha taught about, that we have this suffering, we have karma and afflictions, we have unpredictable situations, but when I resist it and reject it, that's only going to make it worse. So instead, I'm slowly learning to ask myself of just, how can I accept this? How can I face it and focus on bringing in understanding to the situation instead of rejecting it? This winter, it's funny, I was very afflicted about something, and very distressed. I don't even remember what it is now. But I had a good learning moment of kind of catching myself, of doing my normal habit of trying to figure it out, trying to understand, why am I so afflicted? Why is this? What's the problem? I got to understand this. And I was able to catch myself in realizing that was missing, that's stepping over a key point of just feeling whatever I was feeling, accepting, okay, my mind is upset and disturbed. Can I just experience this right now rather than trying to understand it and fix it and get through it and move away from it? Can I just show curiosity and empathy and compassion for whatever I'm experiencing right now and not try to just push it away and get rid of it immediately? And that really helped bring just that acceptance and space to just sit with it. And then over time, I was able to start looking at it. But I think that's such an important step that I know I often miss in part of that rejecting what I'm feeling. How do I fix this? How do I solve this problem? And instead of just like, okay, let me just sit with this and understand it and feel it and to be with it. And in doing that, then it also opens up compassion and understanding for other people who are also feeling those emotions as well. And it also brings a sense of kind of confidence and strength of being like, I can bear this. I don't need to push it away immediately. I can endure this and experience it, and that's okay. And that, brings that deeper empathy and understanding. And when I can really cultivate this acceptance and understanding for who I am and for where I'm at, what mistakes I've made, recognizing that a person who makes mistakes is under the influence of karma and the afflictions, I can really get closer to that sense of compassion and love and what that really means. And that opens my heart to others as well, being able to understand them. And that view is much more realistic and flexible and adaptable to how things really are, rather than holding rigidly to my expectations of how they should be, which only, again, stirs up the afflictions more. And so cultivating this view, I think, is more in line with how the Buddha really views things. And what it means to really practice the Dharma is to learn how to cultivate that wisdom, love, and compassion that we all really wish to develop in ourselves to our fullest potential, and so that we can also extend that and help others as well.